Cold nights shaped human habits long before central heating, electric blankets, or modern duvets existed. People did not survive winter by chance. They did it through systems refined over generations, especially in how they layered bedding. This guide breaks down exactly how historical blanket layering worked, why it was effective, and how the same principles can still be applied today. If you value practical history that translates into real-world survival knowledge, you're in the right place. If this kind of content matters to you, subscribe to Warfield Prepper Chronicles, like the video, and leave a comment to keep these deep dives coming. Now, let's get straight to it. The base layer was about insulation from below, not comfort. Before anyone worried about softness, they worried about heat loss to the ground. Mattresses were often thin or non-existent, so insulation began underneath the sleeper. Straw ticks, hay-filled sacks, or layered wool pads were placed directly on wooden bed frames or even the floor. This reduced conductive heat loss, which is still one of the fastest ways the body loses warmth. In modern terms, this is no different from using a sleeping pad under a sleeping bag. Today, you can replicate this by placing a wool blanket, foam mat, or folded quilts beneath your mattress during winter. This alone can noticeably increase nighttime warmth. The first blanket layer focused on trapping body heat, not sealing it. The layer closest to the body was typically wool or heavy linen. Wool was favoured because it retains heat even when damp and allows moisture to escape. This layer was never tucked tightly around the body. Looseness mattered. You know, trapped air, not fabric weight, was the true insulator. If you wrap yourself up too tightly, you're just compressing that air and, well, reducing your warmth. So, to apply this today, use a breathable blanket as your first layer and, avoid pulling it snug. Just let it drape naturally over your body to preserve those all-important air pockets. The middle layers, right? They created thermal mass and stability. 1 or 2 heavy wool blankets were added above the base layer, each one just a bit larger than the one beneath it. This staggered layering, it prevented gaps where heat could escape. And often enough, these blankets were folded at the top edge to double the thickness over your chest and shoulders, those areas most vulnerable to heat loss during sleep. In practical terms, this technique works perfectly with modern wool blankets or, thick cotton quilts. Just fold the top third back over itself to concentrate warmth where your lungs and heart are located. The final blanket was not about warmth alone. It was about protection. People often used tightly woven wool, canvas-backed blankets, or even coverlets treated with natural oils. This layer reduced airflow, which prevented convective heat loss. Importantly, it was still breathable, unlike modern plastic-backed bedding that traps moisture. Today, this role can be filled by a tightly woven wool blanket or heavy cotton bedspread. Avoid synthetic covers that trap condensation, as moisture dramatically reduces thermal efficiency. Weight distribution mattered more than total heaviness. Contrary to popular belief, historical beds were not crushed under excessive weight. Blankets were arranged so heavier layers rested higher on the body, while lighter layers covered the legs and feet. This prevented restricted circulation and cold extremities. Modern sleepers can copy this by placing heavier blankets from chest to waist and lighter ones below. If your feet get cold, add a folded blanket at the foot of the bed rather than piling weight over your entire body. Blankets were tucked along the sides of the bed frame but left loose near the feet. This allowed excess moisture to escape overnight and prevented clammy cold. Completely sealing bedding traps sweat, which cools the body rapidly. For modern use, tuck your blankets along the sides of the mattress but leave a small opening near the feet. This small adjustment improves warmth over long winter nights more than adding another blanket. Head and neck insulation was, really just part of the bedding system. Folks didn't rely on room heat to keep their heads warm. Instead, wool caps, scarves, or even folded blankets were used to cover the neck and shoulders. Pillows back then were smaller and firmer, which meant you could pull the blankets higher up without worrying about suffocating yourself. A simple modern application, if you like, is using a thin wool throw around your shoulders or wearing a breathable sleep cap when it's cold. This can reduce total heat loss dramatically, and it does so without overheating the rest of your body. Blankets were aired daily to, preserve their insulation. Moisture, you see, was the enemy of warmth. Every morning, blankets were hung or draped out to dry, even if it was freezing outside. This restored their loft and helped prevent mold from setting in. Modern users should still air bedding regularly, especially in winter. Even just an hour over a chair or railing can, restore insulating performance and extend the life of the materials. Layering systems were adjusted seasonally, not replaced. People did not own different bedding sets for every temperature. They simply added or removed layers based on conditions. A 2-blanket system might become 4 during deep winter, using the same materials rearranged. This mindset is honestly invaluable today. Instead of buying heavier duvets, build a modular system using blankets you already own. Adjust placement, folding and order before adding more weight. These methods kept families warm through centuries of harsh winters, wars and fuel shortages. They worked because they followed physics, not convenience. If you apply even half of these techniques, you'll feel the difference immediately. If you found this guide useful, subscribe to Warfield Prepper Chronicles, like the video, and leave a comment with your thoughts or experiences using historical bedding methods. Share this with anyone who values real-world knowledge that stands the test of time.